Hello friends, my name is Shivam from Devops Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials on any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com. Thank you.
So if you know CI/CD, that's great. But I'll be talking here from the point of security, that how you can include security on the CI/CD pipeline and where should and what should we come into. Okay. So CI/CD pipeline, as what CI stands for continuous integration and CD stands for continuous deployment, which is the backbone of the modern DevOps environment. Okay, so you have DevOps principles. So CI/CD is completely a backbone of it. It bridges basically the gap between development and operation team by automating the building, testing, testing and deployment of application. So what CI/CD is basically do and how it works. So basically CI/CD is where your if you say DevOps, so DevOps is a principle where your software development approach involves your operations team together. So in DevOps, what software development team do is they do a continuous development, they do a continuous testing, and they do continuous integration. They do continuous deployment, and then they do continuous monitoring of the software throughout its life cycle. So this is the process which will be adopted by all the top companies to develop high quality software and shorter development life cycle, resulting in greater customer satisfaction and something that every company wants. Okay, so I think we have the understandability of DevOps, which is a complete learning. But DevOps is incomplete without learning about its life cycle, right? So let's see what is the DevOps life cycle. If we talk about what are the stages to see, and what do we have in when we talk about the DevOps, and then we'll see what continuous integration comes into, and continuous deployment comes into, and then where the security should focus, or where the security must rely. So I'll just share my screen over here. Okay, so in CI/CD pipeline, what happens is, as I said, DevOps is incomplete without learning about its life cycle. So we have a continuous uh, life cycle over here. So what happens is, first we have a version control. Okay, so first we will have in DevOps, we have a version control. Version control could be anything. It depends on the company. So version control could be your GitHub, it can be your you know it can be your TFS, it can be your subversion. So version control is basically which maintains a different version of the code, and you can say of source code management. So you have a source code management example GitHub, where your complete um, team works together, or development teams works together to put a code into one source, and that's called a source code management. And source code management softwares can vary, right? Um, you can think of a GitHub as the example of version control. Okay, then after version control, there is another thing which comes into a picture when we talk about DevOps lifecycle, and that other thing is CI, which is continuous integration. The purpose of CI, or the continuous integration, is to compile, validate, um, review the code, do a unit testing, and also do a integration testing. Okay, so continuous integration you can think of as a continuous build, right? You can think of as a continuous build, where you are continuously building it, where you are compiling the code, where you are validating the code, you are having a code reviews, you do a unit testing, you do a integration testing on this. Okay, then after CI, the other stage or the other stage comes into the picture is continuous delivery. Okay, then we call continuous delivery to this continuous continuous delivery. Okay, so continuous delivery, and in continuous delivery, we deploy the build application to test servers. We do the performance of UAT, okay, user accessibility testing. In a continuous delivery, we do a continuous testing actually. So CI is continuous integration where we compile, validate, code review, unit test, integrate testing. Continuous delivery, we do a continuous testing actually. So all your testing goes to the continuous delivery. Then there is a continuous deployment. In continuous deployment, so we have a continuous deployment. I'll write that CD. Sorry. So we'll write it as CD. That's a continuous deployment. So continuous deployment means where you have the deploying you are deploying the tested application on the prod server for releases. Okay. So your configuration management and containerization things comes into continuous deployment. So this is a complete life cycle, and all these parts being monitored under like all your version control, CI, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment will be monitored under one roof that will be called continuous monitoring. Okay, so CI stands for continuous integration and CD stands for continuous delivery and continuous deployment. So these two things comes together, right? So you can think of it as a process similar to a software development lifecycle, right? So your version control comes first, where then there's a build happens, then there's a unit testing happens, then there's a deployment happens, then you do your automated testing, then you deploy to productions, then you measure the complete validation. Okay, so build happens, unit testing happens, deployment happens, auto test happens, deployment to production happens, and measurement of the validation do happens on this. Okay, so so we use different tools, like for example we use code commit, we in AWS, or we different servers have a different way of, or different organization have a different way of working when they work into a CI/CD, and tools can vary. We use Jenkins in order to do the build and build commit test things. We have a stages into that, and we use we can use Jenkins, we can use other services. In AWS we have a code deploy, we have a code build, and we have a code commit, we have a code um, code build, code deploy, code pipeline. So we have a complete stuff on this AWS. We have that CI/CD has been completely allocated. But over what happens is what's the whole situation goes like this: whenever someone put the code on version control, then once the new code has been pushed to version control, then it will go to the set of build automatically, and that build and test happens on the CI. And once the build has happened properly and every test cases, like your code commit, your code is validated, unit testing has been performed, and integration testing has been performed, then it will go to a continuous delivery where you do a continuous testing. And once all the things looks good, that goes to CD. So all just one check into a version control starts the whole pipeline. This is called code pipeline. The whole pipeline gets started once the control has been checked into the version control. Once your code has been checked into the version control, this will start the complete pipeline where CI is gonna.
Hey viewers, trying to get into DevSecOps? Enroll for our DevSecOps certified professional programs and earn the certification that shows you are fit for these technical roles and requirements. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
um, you know, Compile the code, validate the code, code review will happen. Sorry, your complete code and continuous build will happen in CI. Then your continuous delivery takes care of your all deployed build with the performance testing, with unit testing, with functional testing. Basically unit testing actually happens in the CI part, so continuous build actually do a unit testing and integration testing. Continuous delivery will do a performance UAT, or your other stuffs. And continuous deployment will be doing the deployment of the tested application on different prod servers for the releases. Okay, so this is what CI/CD is, right? And the question over here is, where is security came into the picture? right? So they talked about the DevOps principle, and these are the stages of DevOps principle, which is like a CI/CD pipeline, and these are the stages for them, or the DevOps lifecycle. You can say about it. But where's the security come into a picture, right? So that was a miss, and now and as a result, what was happening? The code which got committed on the server, that has a vulnerability sometimes, and due to the vulnerability, the product gets vulnerable at the end of the CD, like at the end of the deployment, and then that get attacked. Okay, that will be attackable, and then will people will attack it and compromise the application. So if we wanted to implement security on DevOps principle, when we implement that and we wanted to implement it, sorry, then we use this complete concepts get changed, and this concept becomes DevSecOps, where we include our security on the DevOps lifecycle. Okay, so where we can include it, right? We cannot include that into a version control, but we can include it on CI, where we are doing the compilation of the code, we are doing the code review, we are doing the unit testing, we are doing the integration testing. So in a CI first stage, in a CI, we uh, you know we scan the code. All right, we scan the code by using some SaaS tools, like for example checkmarks, black duck, that we integrate in the CI stage. And in the CI stage, we in a continuous integration stage, we do sorry, we do run some test cases on the basis of security, that whether the code has a security or not. We run a SaaS tool, like for example checkmarks. Excuse me. We run check marks, we don't run black duck on CI, so that every time the code has been committed and the code has been compiled properly, then we'll be running this set of SAS tool on the complete code. And if suppose the code has been failed on the security, we raise tickets and we generate tickets. We send those tickets to Jira, or you can send it to, or you can notify. It's up to the whole organization how you wanted to deal with. Some people create tickets, some people just want to notify on Slack or any other channel. Okay, so people get notified with the build that, hey, this build has a security issue. Then sometimes company says that if security issues are is greater than the risk factor, like you have a you have a mark. Okay, let's say I will not accept any high vulnerability, right? There should not be any high vulnerability. So the scanner will scan the code and will generate a Jira ticket. If the vulnerability count is greater than 0, which is of high vulnerabilities count is greater than 0, then the risk is not acceptable. So the build will fail, will not go to the continuous delivery section next. It will fail and it will alert a particular team that, hey, this is a failure. You can look upon to this build number, which has some security issues. Okay, that is where we on a second stage we include our we include our security by the help of SaaS tool. The other in this continuous delivery, what we do is we use once the application is good enough and it do not have any security issues, and even even if it has a security issue, we are happy to accept that. Then it goes to the third stage where you do a continuous delivery. So once you're a continuous delivery, that means a deployment, your build has been deploying the application. We in the continuous delivery run the dash tools on the application. The scan gets automatically started on the application, which has a build number, the build number associated with the scan results, or a scan name. And once the scan has been started, it will give a complete report, and that complete particular report will be used to check for the check if we have issues or if what vulnerabilities we get, and we will again match that particular vulnerability with a set of uh, compliance risk acceptable factor, and if it's greater than that, we will again create a tickets and alert people on the, hey, you have issues on this particular build. So that's why it's so we run our dash tool on continuous delivery in short. And in continuous deployment, once it's been completely deployed, we keep our eye on the deployment, so that if we again if we suppose needs needs to do a scan, or we want to do a pen test, we can include that alert or notify people that, hey, this application has been built for longer than this particular amount of time, so we can include pen test team into this and can perform the pen test on the final deployed application. Okay, that's how the whole thing goes in. Okay, this is a complete, and you include security on CI by SaaS, you include security on continuous delivery by including dash scans. All right, any questions in this?
And why, Vasant, and why here in
Mhm.
Amazon it comes into DevSecOps? Like how we can integrate through Amazon?
Yes, that's what I'm going to show you.
Okay.
Through Amazon, it's not comes as a mandatory term, Manikanta. It's up to you that you wanted to include it or not. If you wanted to work as a DevSecOps engineer, like you wanted to include securities on the pipeline, then only you will do the stuff. Otherwise, it's not mandatory that you do a security into it. From the point of security, if there is a pipeline created in Amazon, you wanted to include security into that, that particular time you will, you know, use the CIC, SecOps into security into the DevOps operation. So if your company is already working on cloud and they have a pipeline already created, then you can add stages into it by including your SaaS and DaaS tools into the stages which has been already created by your DevOps principles engineer. Okay.
Okay.
So if you go to services, there is a CI/CD pipeline we call core pipeline into that. So you click on that.
Hey viewers, are you looking for formal training on SRE practices? Take our SRE program. This course will teach you how to successfully implement site reliability engineering in the modern day 24/7 services. Kickstart your SRE training today. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
So DevOps engineer actually, if they are working into this, they actually creates, um, the stuff. So there's a source, there's a code pipeline over here. Now here you can see that there's a deploy, there's a build, there's an artifact, and there's a source. So source is basically a code commit. So if they are using a complete and core, um, AWS, then definitely they will be writing the code completely on the AWS environment. And at that particular moment, they were using a version control named as code commit. Okay, so they're using that already. So if they have a code commit as a version control, that means it's completely the AWS where they manage their code, right? So AWS provides you the flexibility that you can have your version control in AWS itself, and that version control or source management control is your code commit. So if you're having a source control, then code commit, then it will give you the set of repositories if it's there. But as if you don't have a developers working on it, you would see that its repository has been empty. Repository is nothing but a set of folders which will have a code inside it. Okay, so for now, let's say we don't, as I said, two options. One is that one is that your complete core developers are going to do it into a version control of AWS. That's a code commit. The other situation is that you have a different version control, like you have a GitHub where your developers push their codes, okay, or you have a TFS where people push their codes, or you can have subversions where people push their codes. So source code management repositories can vary. All right. So in that case, what you have to do, so code build is the one which do the build of your code, integrates the code and all sorts stuff it will do. Code deploy is the one which will deploy the complete, which will deploy your complete codes into um, right into your pipeline where you have to put or what you don't have to put and so on, right? So now when you go to code pipeline, right, you can click on code pipeline. Code pipeline is a combination of code deploy, code build, and code commit altogether. Artifacts will be the area where if suppose your build completes successfully, then where will be the artifacts of the related build will placed into. That goes with the artifact. Okay, artifact actually integrates with S3, and they allows you to put your whole artifacts of the codes into one place. That's your S3 bucket. Okay, so you have that artifacts on this. So either you can create it like a different way. You can create a code build first where you will make sure that your repositories comes into it, and you build the code. Code deploy, where you make sure that where to deploy the code. The code deployment can be into a bucket as well, that whenever the code runs successfully, it should deploy it into a bucket. Or whenever it's run successfully, code deploy can also deploy the whole code into, or whole set of files into into an EC2 instances, or where your application is running. So that code can be completely replaced by using a code deploy. Then there is a code pipeline. Code pipeline is basically, as I said, creates a pipeline whenever, so that whenever any push happens, this pipeline starts automatically. Whenever any push happens into the code of your source repository of your version control, the code pipeline will start automatically, and it will build the code. It will deploy the complete build into a different location. So you click on pipelines, and I'll create a one. Okay, so we have a code pipeline, and then on the top you can click on create pipeline. Okay, then over here you can write a pipeline name. For example, I will write a name as should I name Sony demo day 4. Okay, new service role. This will be a role. Advanced settings, you can see that artifact store default location. Create a default S3 bucket in your account and store all the artifacts into it. Managed key will be AWS managed key. That's fine. Next. Now you see this source provider. This source provider is the one it's asked for your version control. Okay, so AWS code commit, are you going to do it on ECR from S3 for Bitbucket or GitHub? Okay, GitHub Enterprise, GitHub version 2, GitHub version 1. So anything you can use. Okay, now it will ask that, okay, I want your source version control webhook. Okay, so you have to connect to GitHub, and this particular connection will create a webhook on your source repository, so that your repos appear here. Okay, so when you click on connect to GitHub, it will take you to the GitHub location. Okay, so it says that I will be taking you have to authorize your code suite from your repository. So this is my account already. Okay, so Ninja hack. And if I allow this particular link to happen, then what it will do, it will pull up all my repository into this location from GitHub. So I'll say authorize AWS code suite. Just have to write a password. Okay, now as has been authenticated with the provider, you can see the all repos which has been coming up. Okay, Flask app, learning key, nitty-gritty, and all that will come over here. Okay, and then you talk about the branch, that whenever the code pushed into what branch, I would say only in the master. Whenever anything pushed into the master on this repo, okay, then start the pipeline automatically. Then over here, what will be a build provider? Build provider is important because it's going to build your complete code. So you need a compiler on this. So what do you want? Do you want a code build, or do you want to add Jenkins? So if you click on add Jenkins, then add Jenkins will take care of your whole code, and there will be a builder on Jenkins, like a code compiler will be there, and compiler will start the code. Okay, so for now I don't want to build the code, right? I don't want to build the code. So because it's, if I say AWS code build, I have to create a project, and then I have to write a project name, and I have to do a single build or a what build, batch build. I don't want to do a build over here. We can skip build stage. Yeah, skip it. And then deployment, where do you want to deploy the whole code? Like, where do you want to put this complete stuff? So you can say, I wanted to put on ECS, I wanted to put it on Elastic Beanstalk, I wanted to put on Kcode Deploy, any cloud formations, and there are lots of services. Let's say I wanted to put it on Amazon S3, that every time when my deployment happens, it should be happen on the S3. And which bucket you want? I want this to happen on Sony Demo 3. S3 object key, any key you wanted to give? No, I don't want to give any key. Okay, so next. Or I can say the slash, then we say next. Okay, so this is what the pipeline will look like. And when you click on create pipeline, the pipeline will get created for you. Okay, so wait for some period, and this pipeline will create it. And the pipeline will, what this pipeline will do is, if you start the pipeline, it will take the code from the source. You see it's started already. and it is trying to grab the repository from GitHub. Okay, and that's, you see it is in progress. It will automatically um, grab the repo and it will deploy it on the Amazon S3. Okay, so you see succeeded and you see succeeded over here. So if we go back to our S3 bucket, you will see that there is a, on that Sony demo 3, there will be a artifacts, or there will be a deployed folders available. Okay, deployed files are available. So if we go to this, go to Sony demo 3.
Hey viewers, our Master in DevOps engineering program can help you to hone the skills necessary to succeed in high-level DevOps positions. So, what are you waiting for? Enroll now and earn certification that show you are keeping pace with today's technical roles and requirements. Contact info is mentioned in the video sidebars and in the description box. Book your seats for the upcoming batches now.
And if you see the objects, we see that there's a folder. And if you click on that, we'll see there's a folder file again. Okay, I should have given a good name. Now it came like this. Okay, so basically your all files and folders are going to deploy onto one location when this code deployment happens. Okay, so these are the stages. You see that these are the set of, this is how you create a code pipeline. You have if you add any stage uh, which says to build the code, but you can add it to this. You can say add it to the whole pipeline, and you can add stages, right? You see that there's a button called add stage. You can click on add stage. You can write the stage name, that this would be code build, or this would be code scan. Okay, and then you click on add stage. Okay, and then what do you want to put it action when code scan stage runs? I wanted to put it action on that every time the action name is checkmarks scanner. Okay, checkmarks scanner. Okay, and then action provider is what do you want it to be do. Okay, so it says I want every time this run, then please do invoke a lambda. Okay, and in the lambda I will write an API call to hit the check marks and take the artifacts, right? Input artifacts will be the source from wherever you are copying it. Then here I will write the function name of that lambda which will hit. Okay, and we'll use a parameters variable namespace outspace. If you want output of the artifacts to be placed somewhere, you can click on that, right? And then done. So now you have one more stage added. This particular stage on your complete pipeline, what it will do, first your source, whenever there is a master check-in happens, on whenever any check-in happens or a push code happens on the master branch, this stage will run automatically. And then the second stage, it will run, this will run and it will hit the lambda. Okay, and that in the lambda I have to write a code of to hit the API of checkmarks and take the whole source project to the checkmark and then start the scan. Okay, that is the engineering stuff you have to do a little bit. And then what happens when this stage runs, this will start the checkmark scanner, will run the scan on it will take the whole repository which has been copied in the first stage. From here it will take the whole repository and push it to the checkmarks and start the scan. And once the scan has been started, that the results will come in, and the lambda will take the results and will place it somewhere. You wanted to add more stages, you can keep adding that. Okay, and once all this, if suppose, you can also say that if this stage fails, do not go to the deploy stage, and that condition you can add it to your lambda itself, that if the stage fails, if the count fails, then fail the complete pipeline, do not process ahead. Okay, so similarly, if you have I just wanted to explain you that you can, in a complete code pipeline, you can include the stages if it's not there in your DevOps engineer you're using, and you're not scanning the codes. You can add the stages on your complete DevOps pipeline where you can scan the code. You can figure out where the issue is, what the issue is. Similarly, at the time of deployment, or before the deployment happens, or after the deployment happens, you can also run your dash tool to scan the complete application. Instead of deploying it to Amazon S3, we deploy it to a um, ECS or to a EC2 instances or Elastic Beanstalk. So wherever we deploy it, we will start the scan afterwards. Okay, so dash scans can be included. It's all completely depend on you, but you can add stages and include your security on the pipeline of DevOps. Okay, that is what related to the CI/CD pipeline and security. Okay, and it's a chargeable service, so I'll delete that. Yeah, do remove my webhook as well. Okay, any questions on this?
Thanks for watching. Want to study further? Join our training programs today.